Hi, friends, and welcome back to Connectedness. I'm Fernanda, your host and founder of Filled Cups. This is a space where we explore what it means to grow, connect, and trust ourselves, and to show up authentically with each other. Today's episode is about friendship, specifically why it can feel so hard as adults, even though we want it so deeply. My guest today is Zayne. I actually found him randomly on Instagram, where he was talking honestly about loneliness, connection, and the skills that we're never really taught when it comes to building friendships. What stood out to me wasn't just what he was saying, but how real it felt. Zane has spent a lot of time thinking about why so many of us crave connection yet feel awkward, anxious, or stuck when it comes to actually forming friendships. We are going to talk about why adult friendships are so challenging, what gets in the way emotionally and socially, and how we can start building stronger, more meaningful connections in a way that feels authentic. Zane, welcome so much to the Connectedness podcast. Would you mind giving me us a little bit of an intro? And then after your intro, talk about your relationship with friendship.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I have always found friendships to be such a rich topic. Growing up, I was the type of person who really valued friendships. I wanted to be with my friends as much as I could. There was always a bit of a block there for me, though, where I felt as though I couldn't connect to my friends as deeply as I wanted to.
Mm.
I remember in grade 8, we were like 13, 14. There was this app that came out where you could ask your friends or people questions anonymously or leave comments to them anonymously. And I had this desire for all my friends to have this app just so I could share like my compliments and how much I cared about them and how much I love them on this app. And it's really interesting because I never felt fully comfortable at the time sharing that just normally, like not anonymously to them. So I know that friendships has just been such a central part of my life to the point where when I became certified as a life coach 5 years ago, I was like, I need to help people with their friendships. So I became a friendship coach where I now help people make new friends, up level their current friendships, and move through friendship breakups and challenges. So I'm all about friendships. That's what I've loved to talk about and help people with and reflect on myself. And, growing up as someone who was really shy, it was difficult, but now I feel like I've really stepped into the capability of being able to create friendships wherever I go. And it's really powerful.
That's amazing. And so you just mentioned that when you were younger, you had this app and you wish you could have given people compliments anonymously. Was, I guess I'm just curious, like what was there a kind of a blockage that you felt like you couldn't give them compliments in directly? Were you able to dig into that a little bit as you matured into your life coaching?
Absolutely. I think for me, there was this sense of it's not normal or conventional for boys our age and teenagers our age to share compliments so fully and in such an expressive way with each other.
Mm.
So it almost, the app that was out there became a sort of reason or more of a safeguard where I could be vulnerable, but not actually be vulnerable with them. And, as we know, vulnerability is such a central part of forming those deep connections. So I would say, yeah, there was definitely a block there. There was a really huge block between me and the friends that I had, and my desire to express to them how I felt and how much I cared about them was unmet for the longest time. I would actually say it was never met with those specific group of friends. I had to find other friends whom was um, comfortable with enough to express how I felt about them, and those are my friends today now.
In your story, when did you realize? that friendships don't come naturally for everyone.
Mm, it's a great question. I mean, I realized it for myself at a very early age. I was shy, but I also had a desire to express and love and give and do all these great things with my friends. But there was a block there, and I think a lot of people experience that today where they want to have those friends where they can host parties with and be there for and drive to the airport at 3 a.m. for. And there's a block for a lot of people when it comes to expressing themselves or even finding those friends, to be honest. And
Mhm.
I know for me, I realized very early that this is a real struggle. I mean, for me, certainly. And then I think into my adulthood, I just noticed that everyone was kind of having challenges with their friends. Even the people that seemed very social and happy, once you get to talk to them a bit more, they were all having challenges with their friends at some level. So I
Yeah.
think anyone can have those challenges, and I really realized it once I got into adulthood for everyone else that, oh, it's not just me who's having friendship challenges, it's everyone.
Very true. And I'm glad you mentioned that. The sometimes we can have a tendency to think like, well, what's wrong with me? Like if my friendship is going awry, or if I'm having trouble with a friend, we can tend to internalize it and think that there's something wrong with us. But that's not necessarily the case. It could be, it's a general, I think maybe even a systemic issue at this point. Do you think, as far as like, obviously we've established that it can be harder, especially as we get older, but do you think that the adult loneliness situation, is it a lack of people or is it a lack of depth?
Mm. I would say it's more a lack of depth and a lack of belief in one's ability to cultivate meaningful friendships. When we were children, especially for those of us who went through the public school system, we
Mhm.
were surrounded by people our age for like 8 hours a day during the week.
Yeah.
And that on it, going through something similar, there were so many factors there that led to a very rich environment for people to make friends naturally.
Yeah.
Then you get into adulthood once you graduate high school, or if you go to university, graduate university, then you're like, okay, what do I do now? I don't have consistency. I don't have a lot of people who I'm naturally around who are going through the same thing. It becomes a lot more challenging. I don't think there's a lack of people who are available, who are wanting to make new friends. And I know that because if you go on any popular Instagram reel about friendships or people having even a dinner party, you will see hundreds of comments of people saying, oh, I really wish I had that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I really believe that speaks to the idea of we're all going through a similar situation,
Yep.
and we're not seeing that if we put ourselves out there. And I know that's easier said than done, but
Yeah.
if we are to put ourselves out there, we will meet new people and create those friendships. So I would say it's a lack of belief and even perspective in knowing that there are a lot of people who are actually going through this exact same experience. I like half joke that if we could just put all the people who comment on these reels in one room and then like, okay, there you go, make some friends. But you know,
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're so right. I have a similar feeling here in Charlotte. The Charlotte Reddit. And I'm guessing that most cities have something like this where there's a subreddit in the Charlotte Reddit that where very, very often there's somebody posting, "Oh, why is it so hard to make friends in Charlotte? I'm lonely. I don't have a best friend. I wish I had friends." And then there's all these people commenting. And I've had the same thought, like, what if you all just get together?
right? And it's so interesting because like on social media, it's so clear that this is a very common challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's exemplified in the city specific subreddits 'cause it's like you're literally in the same area, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I've seen the same thing.
And you talked about lack of belief and perspective, but what about expectations? Are how
Mm,
like do you have a point of view on how expectations can actually make it harder for people to build strong friendships as adults?
absolutely. I think if you are someone who doesn't have friends and you're going to a new place or a new meetup event, you might have the expectation that it's supposed to be like a very linear progression of, okay, you go to the meetup event and you meet some people who you really vibe with, and after two or three meetup events you maybe have a one-to-one hangout. I
Hmm.
would say most people aren't even there going to the meetup events, but if they are, there is still that idea that it's a very linear progression. But the reality is it takes time as adults, especially because we have so many priorities, to cultivate those one-to-one connections if you're going to like a shared space.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really central challenge for a lot of people is they have the expectation that making friends kind of just happens. One of my favorite books on this topic is Making Friends Doesn't Just Happen by, or sorry, it's called Friendships Don't Just Happen by Shasta Nelson.
Okay.
Fantastic book about this where it's like it doesn't have to be this organic thing where you just run into someone at a party and you hit it off and then you become friends. Like you can be really intentional. So I think that's the main expectation for a lot of people is friendships kind of just happen organically, and that people who have made friends have made them in special circumstances that you cannot replicate.
Hmm.
And honestly, a mix of the beliefs and the expectations together disempower a lot of people when it comes to making friends.
Yeah, so they might already have like a almost like a defeatist a mindset about their ability to make friends because their prior attempts didn't meet their expectations. This sounds like what you're saying.
That and also what they see on social media, they think that other people have some special circumstances that led them to the beautiful friend group that they have.
Hmm.
And often, and this is a common issue in social media in general, we're
Hmm.
seeing like the very end result of all the work and challenges, which would be the beautiful dinner party with the theme and all the food and everyone laughing. But
Yeah,
what we don't see often on social media is everything that went into creating a friend group like that.
yeah.
It doesn't just happen, especially as an adult. I mean, it can be a little bit easier in some situations where maybe you do meet someone at a party or a meetup event or just even outside when you're doing your thing. But if you're just relying on that, you're going to have a lot of challenges.
Right. You might not be lucky enough to find somebody who will be like the cruise director of your friend group. So like I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And I can tell you right now this is hitting home with me very much so because I love hosting dinner parties and I love hosting parties. And just to get my friends, like just to align the schedules is a it's it's not easy. It's not easy, but I also don't want to give up. So I'm like texting people, I'm like wrangling cats, trying to coordinate everybody to come to my dinner party at the same time. So yeah, and that they don't talk about that in social media. Social media just makes everything look like um like everything is peachy and easy and natural and it doesn't take a lot of like intentional planning, right?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
that's my biggest advice for people is like, be careful with what you consume on social media, especially when it comes to friendships. Because if you're already going into it with maybe the stats or whatever societal idea of friendships, which is, it's hard to make friends as an adult, which we can even unpack that.
Yeah.
You're going to be looking for that and you're going to see that in a lot of places. Or you'll see people having fun and you'll think, that's so out of reach, so unattainable. It's
Yeah.
almost like if you are just starting your business and all you're seeing is these multimillionaires who are already really far ahead in their business. Of course, you're going to feel disempowered,
Yeah.
especially when like they're not giving advice or anything. They're literally just like in this example showing off their wealth and what they've created, which is honestly the equivalent of people posting dinner parties. Of course they do that with good intentions, but people will perceive that as, oh, I just wish I had that. Why can't you tell me how to create that for myself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's a good comparison. Thank you. We gotta
Hmm.
remember that when we're looking at social media. So let's talk a little bit about time. Like how much of the like I don't have time, um, I don't know if it's an excuse, like how much of it is real and how much of it is more based on fear and avoidance.
Yeah, it's real in the sense that if you look at the statistics, we do have less time as adults. So many other priorities are coming up. But that's the key word is priorities. I might just reframe it and say, you know what? I do have some time, maybe not as much as I used to, and I'm choosing not to prioritize friendships in this season of my life.
Mm,
That feels so much better than saying I just don't have time, because then you feel like you're at the effect of something that is almost outside of you versus saying actually I do have time. I might be scrolling less or I might not watch Netflix as much, but I could go to a meetup event this evening instead of doing those things, but I'm
mhm.
choosing not to. It's like I think for anyone who is experiencing that idea of I don't have time, I would just tell yourself the truth about it and say, probably do have time, and I'm choosing not to spend that time on friendships right now. And just see how much better you feel just owning that truth.
Right. And then you can actually make a choice, right? You can later, whenever it feels right, you can say, well, okay, now I'm choosing to prioritize making friends and I'm choosing where to spend my time rather than being a victim of your own, of your time circumstances, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good advice. So I guess let's transition like with this landscape. Aside from time, which we just talked about, like what are some of the other big things that are actually getting in the way of people making friends?
Yeah, I know we talked a little bit about it, but I really think belief is so, so central.
Hmm.
Like, do you believe you can go to a meetup event and just even talk to people, be in contact with others? How do you think about your social skills and your communication abilities? And I will say, I don't think the communication skills and social skills are as central as some people think they are. I think when we study those too much, we actually get in our head a little bit more. I'm a big advocate for my people, like, just be yourself. And I know that's so much easier said than done, but try not to get too caught up in changing all your mannerisms. But
Hmm.
I think, being yourself and being able to be who you are is really central. But the belief aspect is so huge because if you go into an event with the thought, this probably won't work out, I'm just going through the motions, you're not going to make friends. You're not going to even connect with people fully. And I'll give you an example in my own life. Like, I really love singing and performing. So I went to an open mic for 6 months before I had a one-to-one hangout with one of the people there. And then we hung out a few times one-to-one. And then the friendship didn't work out, right? We just weren't compatible. If my belief was at a level where I thought, you know what, like, I don't know about friendships or there's something wrong with me where I can't make friends, I would probably never try and make friends after that. It's like, man, I went to this open mic. I spent money for 6 months for the drop in fee. I made a friend and now we're not even friends anymore. What was the point of that? If I have that attitude and that belief, then I honestly won't pursue friendships in the future because I'll have confirmed this story that I have for myself that friendships are difficult as an adult and that it never leads anywhere. But because my belief is so strong in my ability to connect and make new friends, I still am going to meet events. And I've made friends since that,
Yeah.
right? So I think a lot of it is belief. It's also like resilience in a sense, like being able to bounce back from those challenges of maybe going to a meetup event and feeling socially anxious and stammering over your words a little bit, like
Yeah.
not making that mean anything bad about you, but seeing it as part of the process. One thing I love to tell my people is find an area in your life where you're actually pretty decent or better at having that resilience or course correcting or not giving up, and see how you can apply those same ideas and mindsets to friendships. Because everyone I talk to, all my people, they say like, oh, there actually is an area. For some people it's business, for others, a lot of them, it's like their workout regimen, right? It's like if you have a bad day at the gym, you're gonna never go to the gym again.
Right.
You're gonna figure out what happened, and maybe you tweaked a muscle and you figure it out and you go back.
Yeah.
So I would say belief, resilience, it's really the internal factors more than anything external.
Yeah. So thank you. This is really insightful.